Hi, this is Debbie. I'm from Florida. I just have a question about a servant's heart. We're supposed to be like Christ and serve others before ourselves and put others before ourselves, but to what extent? If it makes us unhappy or miserable, is that really a servant's heart? I guess I'm just having an issue with deciding how far do we go to serve others, and is it selfish to say no to serving? Please let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for all you do. I love your program. Have a great day.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you so much for calling in with your question. Stephen and I listened to it just before we came on air, and Stephen, I think we agreed we wished we knew a little bit more about Debbie's story, but I think that you have some good help for her.
Well, let's just jump in. Debbie, again, thank you for calling. Yes, we're to serve one another. That's a command of Christ for the church, for the believer, and there's a heart that's engaged in serving. Listening to your question didn't sound like you were unwilling to be a servant. Let's agree that a servant doesn't decide in the morning whether or not they feel happy about it or appreciated because of it. They're servants, and their will is the will of the master. But in this culture, your master is the Lord, and you want to do his will. And I think there's probably something that's overwhelming you in serving. You did ask the question, is it selfish to say no to serving? And the answer is, well, absolutely, you have to say no. You've got to say no to something, or you'll be saying yes to everything. There's simply no end to the needs. So if you're in a church context, and this is where the question is coming, yes, serving can be a burden. There's a responsibility attached to any ministry service opportunity. But if you're serving in the church and ministry, make sure you're doing it according to your spiritual gifting and your desire. You might be in the wrong role. I think of 1 Timothy chapter 3, where Paul he's recruiting for that office of elder, pastor, teacher in the office. And he says, if anybody desires the office of an elder, it's a good thing. Wait, he just said, if anybody desires that office. In fact, that's a very strong word in the original language, epithemia. It has to do with passion. If it's your passion to be an elder, that's a good thing to be a church leader. In other words, it may not be your passion, and that's fine too. So, Debbie, do an assessment. Do an assessment of your time demands. Serving in some way doesn't mean that you have to serve in every way. And every need in the church then isn't necessarily God's will for your life. So you may need to do an assessment on the demands you've got. Maybe you're being pulled in too many directions. Let me use the analogy in the family. I think it's a good thing for kids to be involved in sports, but I see parents taking their kids to 2 and 3 different sporting activities every week. They can't keep enough gas in the car. Make a decision to do one and say no to 2 others. So do an assessment of your time demands. Do an assessment of the effectiveness of your service. Is it bearing fruit? Does it seem to be a blessing to the people? Does it seem to be a blessing in your own life? Are you seeing progress? I don't know, Debbie. Again, we wish we knew more, but you might be doing too many things, or you might be involved in the wrong things or the wrong role. It doesn't mean that you don't have a servant's heart, but you can only invest your heart in so many areas. If I take the analogy into marriage, I don't know if you're married or not, but you said yes to one guy and no to 100 others. Don't worry about the 100 others. You said yes to one, so you give your life to that one. I have found as a pastor, Scott, and I know you have as well, we have people that will come to our church. They've moved in from other places of the country, and they're just completely wiped out. And they feel guilty. And we put them through a process of new members where we give them a gift assessment. We know the danger of being pastors and wanting people to do all sorts of things, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I am responsible for mobilizing several hundred volunteers every Sunday. And it takes a lot of people.
It does. And you love it when people say yes. But you have to be careful that you allow people to say no, for the right reason. Debbie, we hear a servant's heart even in your question, by the way. So hopefully we've nibbled around the edges enough to give you some insight of perhaps why you need to make some decisions in the future as you look at your schedule, your calendar, your energy, your giftedness, and be willing to say yes and be willing to say no.